We'll do it live.
Do it live.
Fuck it. Fucking Bill O'Reilly.
I quote that too much.
That should just be our intro every time.
Fuck it. Do it live. Piece of shit.
Alright, so this is the first episode of Stumbling Down History Road. This is where we talk about the history of someone, something, an event, anything in particular. We are not experts, and we're going to be drinking, so this should be fun. I'm Jackson.
I'm D.
And I'm going to be the sober one the whole time. I'm Tom.
Today we will be talking about the history of Gundam. Enjoy.
So how much do you know?
I know that there's Gundam Wing Zero, Gundam Endless Waltz. There's Gundam Battle Assault 1, 2. There's another almost like MOBA type tower defense thing that my brother plays on PlayStation for Gundam. I don't remember the exact name of it.
Battle Operation 2.
Yeah, it's been around since the late 70s.
I was going to say basically nothing, but after you said late 70s, I'm like, okay, you got something.
And it has a giant following full of weebs.
Also not wrong.
By the way, I'm drinking tequila.
Tequila.
We're not sponsored, so I'm not going to show the fucking logo, but you guys know the bloody battle. Not sponsored in any way.
No, not sponsored. Hopefully, maybe one day.
So before you can't understand what we're saying, where do you want us to start from this?
Go. Those two know more about it. They're basically going to try and teach me. I know that there is a vast history of lore, like Space Hitler.
So there's multiple different timelines.
Yeah.
And universes.
Yes. And technically they all merge and then de-merge again at one point or another. They also merge with another one of Tomino's works, which causes the merge / de-merge.
I don't know who Tomino is. Is that the author of the main thing?
He was the original director.
Yeah, he kind of...
So it started off as anime and not a manga?
Yes.
Okay.
It was Sunrise was almost going out of business by that point, which is Sunrise is the studio that made Gundam.
Okay.
They make a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Well, they make a lot of stuff now.
Even back then, they did make a
stuff.
lot of stuff back in like the 70s, but they were almost going out of business at that point.
All right. So what was the first one?
For Gundam?
Yeah. What was the first Gundam?
Gundam.
Mobile Suit Gundam.
Okay. And
Okay, so that one takes place in the main timeline, the Universal Century.
Yes. So Universal Century is about 79, 79, because it's the first one is Universal Century 0079. It's the 79th year of the Universal Century. That's when this takes place.
you sound too sober.
Give me a second here. I have 2 things in and a few bowls. I don't know about the weed laws on YouTube, so I have to do that shit off screen apparently. Somebody in the comments get back to us about that eventually.
This is just going to be cut.
Bleep bloop.
Wow. Fuck you. Anyway.
We're not mentioning that here.
Well, it'll be better
We
to
are
just...
all over 21.
It's just easier to cut out dead air anyways.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so far we haven't really had any dead air. We just kind of, establishing shit here. I mean, this is literally our first podcast. We're figuring this shit out as we go.
Hence the episode 1.
Duh. I said we should start as episode 2 as a homage to comics. That would start on issue 2, but that's a whole different story for a different podcast.
Drink.
Fine.
So, back to Gundam. It started off in what year?
1979.
1979. Okay.
Yeah.
Started off with Mobile Suit Gundam.
Yep.
Yep.
Which took place in Universal Century 0079.
Okay. Okay.
They kind of do that as a theme, where the year is also the year in Gundam when it comes out. Kind of.
At least for the Universal Century.
Yeah, at least for Universal Century, kind of, sorta.
Okay, so I'm following along.
From there, there's a couple sequels to Gundam. And then
All part of 79 Universal Century.
Yes.
Yeah.
Universal Century. Technically, they ended it at one point, and then have what takes place after, which came out recently, but it's still ongoing timeline.
Okay.
It's the only one that's still ongoing.
And even that has its own separate continuities with like Thunderbolt and Origin and stuff.
And like all the
Side
novels.
stories, yeah. Because even then, there's novels, there's like novelizations of the shows, and those themselves have their own separate continuity too. For example, this what happens in Char's counterattack is completely different from what happens in
Belchaltika's Children.
Thank you. I'm never going to say that right.
Horrible name. You'll learn quickly. All the names are terrible in the series.
Yeah, Amano at one point. I think it's a running. I think there's a fake quote that Amano says that at one point he just started making up gibberish for names and see if it'll stick. I don't know if that's true or not, but I could see him doing that.
Okay. I mean, I do something similar when I DM for pretty much any D&D campaign. I just find names that I enjoy and like take.
Yeah, but like Armoro, Ray, Casfall, Daikun.
The Big Zom.
The Big Zom.
Yeah.
That's disgusting.
Gundam's also very progressive for its time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do elaborate.
Well, the main character's not even Japanese. He's Canadian.
No, yeah.
Okay, so that's progressive for Japan?
Well,
because Japan historically has been pretty,
you can use the word xenophobic. It's fine.
Yeah.
They've been pretty against outsiders.
Well, I mean, for example, another one is Ryo Hayabusa. He's part, isn't he supposed to be part, Hispanic or something? Or
Something like that. But
Yeah.
there was only, 2 Japanese crew members of White Base, which is the original battleship from the original Gundam. It was only Ryu and Mirai, I think.
Yeah, I think so, because I think even Bright Noah is supposed to be British.
Yes.
Hence why he has the British voice actor in one version.
Okay.
So, there's one thing you have to learn about Gundam is everything is just random circumstances. No,
Okay.
everything that happens is just normally coincidence.
So, kind of like how with the Raiders of the Lost Ark and Indiana Jones, you don't really need Indy. He just kind of happens upon...
Armoro basically stumbles into Gundam because
I mean,
Zeon was attacking his colony.
to be fair, though,
to destroy Gundam.
his dad
What's a
made the
Zeon?
Gundam.
So Zeon is basically space Nazis.
Okay.
But
And Armoro is the main character.
space Nazis that aren't originally
suit?
space Nazis.
You know what? I'd actually more say they're more like the space South, but without slavery.
So, hold on. Armoro is the main character of
The
Mobile
original,
Suit Gundam?
yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just so we can kind of trace a
Armoro-
bit back into
Armoro
history
Ray.
of...
Universal Century, Ensign, Armor Ray.
Alright, so was this the first real Mobile Suit anime or manga?
Well,
Okay.
define mobile suit. Are you talking just giant robot or
Well, I mean, how would you define Gundam as a genre?
real robot?
Real robot, because there's Super Robot.
Which is like Mazinger. But
But
yeah, you have like
no, no.
super robots, which is like Mazinger and Gao Gaigar and stuff like
Even
that.
G Gundam itself can be considered
Super robot.
Yeah.
So what are those? What's the difference between...
Robots that have like superpowers, basically.
Okay, so what... I know that you listed a couple of more Japanese ones for the super robots, but what would you liken it to? Like Big O, maybe something?
Big O's
Even
still
Big
Japanese.
Big O is real
Sure, but that was
robot.
aired in America
The
more...
second
Season
season
two,
was
yes.
second season was
Okay, so
technically
then-
American production.
Transformers? Is that like super robot? Or
Yeah,
is that
yeah,
more
that,
real
yeah.
robot?
that's more super robot-y.
Okay.
Especially with like the mass shifting they do.
Yeah.
Okay. So that would be the closest it can.
Basically, Super Robots is usually a robot that's controlled by like a teen kid, and it has like unnecessarily silly and OP powers, versus typically like some sort of like monster or like robotic monster of the week type situation. It's very much in the vein similar to Power Rangers, whereas Real Robot is very much like a like
So Pacific Rim would be Super Robot.
Pacific
For
Rim would be
a big
technically
Hollywood movie equivalency.
It would be more actually like Gundam because it's more
So a real robot.
grounded. Yeah.
Okay.
the robots are real robots. The monsters would be Super Robot, but even then, I mean, at that size range, because they're bloody massive. Because Gundams themselves are only about 50, 60 feet tall at most.
Yeah, the average is 18 meters tall.
Yeah.
The things you learn. So
In fact, you could even see that in Pacific Rim 2 because you see the unicorn, the life-size unicorn statue, and it's compared to the things, and it's like fucking this tiny compared to the things that are the size of the skyscrapers. So yeah.
okay. So how did this all start? Like, where did he get his inspiration from?
Tomino?
He basically just wanted to make a show about, like, Tomino is very, with his series, they're very depressing.
Yeah.
Especially.
I mean, we've talked about how it's like Space South / Space Nazis and like Space Hitler. So I mean, I get that it's depressing.
well, he wants something that's more, for lack of better words, realistic. He wants, especially anime at the time, even though before it there were some darker stuff, even in the Super Robot stuff, like murder and stuff and that. But Gundam is, at its heart, a story about kids going through war.
Okay.
Like, there's a joke, another running joke with Gundam. It's come for the robots, stay for the war crimes. Because actual war crimes happen in this show.
okay.
Trigger warning, but war crimes is a trigger,
And also, the other thing that kind of like differentiates it for like real robots versus super robots is like these are military weapons. They're not like this like god created giant robot out of nowhere. They have frame numbers. They tell you how they run half the time, like what their fuel source is. They have ammo counts, actual controls.
And this is to differentiate it between
You
super,
want super
robot
robots.
and real robot.
Robot, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like for Gundam, they had to figure out a way on how to. They kind of have like a pseudoscience, so they run off like
It's
a
called
Minovsky particle. So they had to make up this magical particle.
It's a type of nuclear generator. Nuclear, whatever. Anyway.
yeah,
nuclear,
and
yeah.
the Minovsky particles is the
Or a
byproduct of it.
And it's essentially like the fusion leaves like this chemical and that's what causes them to actually have to fight in these robots, because the particles will cause like radar jams and stuff, so they can't just like shoot and launch missiles at each other, so they have to get up close, which is why they're in like the mobile suits, which are giant people and stuff.
And they weren't originally made for war. They were originally made to build giant colonies in space.
Yeah.
So space colonization, which equips itself into war because colonization is war. Woo!
Well,
No.
it was more of the colonies wanted their own autonomy from Earth.
Okay.
And then the Earth Federation basically just gave them the middle finger.
Okay.
And then the original creator of Xeon, which is the colonies, like their group,
Yeah.
was for peace the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
But then he gets executed, assassinated.
Poisoned, assassinated, or whatever.
Yeah, to be overthrown by the current leader of Xeon.
The
at
zombie
the time,
family.
which are very, very fascist, for lack of a better word.
Okay, and this all takes part of the central one, and it extends into the other universes as well, like the similar concept of trying to escape from Earth.
Kind of, sort of, yes. For example, Wing Gundam is it's Earth versus the colonies also, but a little bit differently. That one was actually designed to start appealing to a female audience, with having the 5 main characters be Bishojos,
Bishonen.
whatever.
Yep.
Bloody hell. Pretty
What's
boys.
that?
Pretty
Okay,
boys.
Pretty
Yeah.
boys.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Which you even referenced Gundam Wing before, which, by the way, Gundam Wing.
We grew up in the 90s,
90s.
so Toonami was a big part of our history.
Well, I mean, it came out in 2000.
Yes, but it was aired on Toonami, and during that time, that's where a lot of the people.
Yeah. And
We grew up with
we got
nostalgia.
Gundam way out of order in America,
Yeah, we started with Wing,
which came out in '95 in Japan,
which even then we got G Gundam after, and
which
G
came out in
Gundam,
'94.
which came out before '95. Yeah, so we actually
Yes,
got.
that is how 94, 95
And then we got
works.
Gundam, which was '79.
And then they didn't finish that because of 9/11. Then we got we got the.
I mean, we got a bunch of other side stuff. Like we got some of the Universal Century spin-off stuff, which is still canon. So we got
Yeah.
08th MS Team, which takes place at the same time.
MS Team
as
is good.
Original.
That
Gundam.
one's Vietnam, but with robots.
Now, I
Yeah.
kind of remember G Gundam. That was the one with the basically it's just one giant tournament arc.
It's DBZ, but with giant robots.
That one is technically considered Super Robot because they have unnecessary BS going on.
Okay.
Pardon me.
So then,
They were trying to revitalize Gundam during the 90s. They kind of wanted to try something new because the Universal Century has been going on since the 70s. And every series before that was all in the Universal Century.
I'm just taking the piss. We're not sponsored.
it's fine.
If we don't leave this in.
This we will leave in.
Anyway, sorry.
But yeah, they tried to do something new. So for the years of 94, 95, and 96 in Japan, each show had their own timeline.
Okay, so they each created their own individual universe type of thing.
Yes. So
Yes.
G Gundam was the mobile fighter timeline.
Okay.
Wing was the after colony timeline.
Okay.
And then X is the after war timeline.
Did we get X?
No.
We never got X.
We- well, eventually we got it, just not when it was airing on TV.
It was never aired on TV. No.
Yeah, we got
But
it on Blu-ray and DVD.
But that doesn't count.
It still has an American release. It only took them 30 years almost.
Whatever. Semantics.
So, if you were to try and recommend somebody to try and start somewhere, where would you even recommend?
It depends on who the age range you're talking to and like what their initial interests are themselves. For example, somebody who knows comics, I might suggest G Gundam just because it's a little bit bombastic, like comics.
Okay.
Somebody who likes war stuff, like actual war stuff, I'd start with like Universal Century, particularly because that's a little bit more grounded, especially like 8th MS Team, which is basically space Vietnam but with robots. In fact, the epilogue for the novels is extremely dark, by the way. I'm not going to say what happens, but yeah. I don't know if you know what happens or not.
For what? 08th MS Team?
Yeah, what
Well,
happens?
it's actually a retelling completely. It's not like just an epilogue.
Well,
The whole story is retold differently. But
Well,
yes, it is very dark.
the character, yeah, what happens to
Yeah,
the
yeah,
character
I know.
Kiki, yeah.
So, it depends on the kind of person you're trying to
Introduce it to?
Yeah, if they're more like open to like a wider range, like including like older stuff, because a lot of modern day like fans and stuff in general, they can't go back and watch older stuff. They try and they just don't work. For a person who's open minded, I would actually go with Gundam X. It's got its own. It's shorter than a lot of Gundams. It was one of only two that ever got canceled. The other one was the original Gundam got canceled. So that's why they actually got a shorter runtime than the others. Because it's a self-contained story. You don't really need anything else, and it's a one-year thing. And unlike what happened with Gundam Wing, which is what a lot of people would recommend, Gundam Wing, halfway through the show, they had a writer's strike. So that's why the story of the first half is pretty well written, but the later half kind of just falls apart. Gundam
Yeah.
X, the entirety of it is all one writing team, and it actually has a decent conclusion in the end.
To be fair,
But what I would say for like
be
modern
fair,
fans,
to be fair,
because I feel like it would be more up their alley, is Iron-Blooded Orphans.
yeah, Iron Blooded Orphans is a good place to start.
So, isn't that a YouTube only thing, the Iron Blooded Orphans?
No,
Or
no, no.
Is that
No.
Netflix?
No.
It's on a few places, yeah.
But that's actually like full on canon with it, because I know that some.
It's its own universe.
It's its own thing.
It's its own
Yeah,
thing.
but I know that some projects, some anime, some things have AMVs which aren't a part of it. Some of them
No,
have
it's its
fan
own-
based things, like
it's
Dragon
its
Ball
own
very
one and
recently
done.
had its own little fan based thing coming out on YouTube, which got a lot of.
So they did release Iron-Blooded Orphans on YouTube, but it was aired in Japan on TV. It was a TV show first.
Yeah, no, it's a full series. It's 2 seasons, about 42.
Okay.
42
And it has the Amano, you said?
No.
No, different writer.
But what I mean
You mean
is,
Tomino.
like,
Tomino, yeah.
Tomino.
it
But
has,
no,
it has, like, their seal of approval to go ahead with it,
it's Sunrise. It's made by Sunrise.
which is
Every
the production
Gundam
house?
Yes, every Gundam is made by
Gotcha.
Sunrise.
It doesn't need Tomino to have his stamp.
Tomino has only done certain things.
Yeah.
Most of it is all Universal Century. Actually, only one of them wasn't, which
I wanna
was
say it's
Turn
Turn
A.
A.
It's Turn A.
But he didn't do the designs for Turn A.
No, but
he
I'm
never
talking
really
about
did the designs anyway.
The directing.
Yeah, you know, he
Because
did
almost
direct.
everything he's done has been UC or at least adjacent to.
Well, Turn A
Universal
is
Century.
supposed to. Well, remember how he said there's a whole core condensate where all the timelines merge. Turn A is where the timelines merge.
Kind of. with air
Kind of,
quotes.
sort of, yeah.
Remember, guys, we're not experts.
Well, Gundam lore is kind of convoluted, especially once you start going into the alternate universes, because it's all, you know. But then because they're supposed to condense into one universe, it makes it convoluted that way.
Because it used to be easy when it comes to at least the animation, like for Universal Century, because everything that was animated Universal Century was canon.
And then
But then they introduced
Origin.
Thunderbolt, and
Does
technically, if you really,
take place in Origin's timeline?
I'm not sure. Honestly, I couldn't tell you.
Because Origin is notoriously slightly farther advanced, and everybody says that Thunderbolt is too advanced for what Universal Century is supposed to be. Even though
Again, non-experts.
Thunderbolt has its own end itself too, where they turn into After X. They just ended the manga for Thunderbolt, and it becomes apparently After War. Becomes X Gundam that way.
I
So
mean,
wait, it goes from one timeline into another?
I'm saying this hyperbolically because they do a bunch of colony drops on Earth.
So after War Gundam X, there was a bunch of the
Drops.
colonies themselves. They dropped them on the planet, and it almost wiped out all of humanity. So that's why it's called After War Gundam X. So it's the only Gundam really that's a post-apocalyptic story.
Technically, you could say Iron-Blooded Orphans kind of is, because the war they take place after is called the Calamity War.
Yeah, but the Calamity War didn't wipe out most of humanity.
It wiped out a good chunk of it.
It did, but almost. I mean,
So does every major war in their
Yeah.
things, yeah.
All right, so back to the history of it.
Sorry.
No, that's fine. So it started in '79. This is how it all got started. It started with Amano.
Tomino.
It started with
Tomino.
Tomino.
You
Who's
keep think-
Amano? Who?
Yoshitaka Amano, the artist for Vampire Hunter D and Final Fantasy.
Gotcha.
That's who you're thinking of, yes.
I don't know why I keep.
He did
referencing
do
him.
some artwork for Gundam, just not in the official series.
He does
Okay, I don't
artwork
know
for
why I keep-
everything at some point or
I don't know why I keep thinking him.
So what else?
Probably because of tequila.
Tequila.
Tequila. But
Not sponsored.
tequila's generic.
I'm just joking.
But so he drew his inspirations. He was born in,
Oh, Tomino's old. I couldn't tell
Yeah,
you.
fuck if I remember.
All right,
He
so he was.
saw World War II. Let's put it that way.
All right, so he was born a while ago, and he started this in '79. That's when it originally aired.
Yeah.
He was
Yes.
probably working on it back in '77 and '78, I would assume.
78. It got canceled.
I was just sorry
Is it muted?
for a split second.
Mute a splash.
For a split second.
Bleep bloop.
We're gonna keep the cut this.
Oh, yeah. But yeah, the original got canceled because it
So Gundam Mobile Suit got canceled because
It got canceled, but they allowed it to finish the series.
back
Pretty
in
much.
'79, or
Yes.
was this a pre-airing?
no, the original run for Gundam got
Okay.
canceled.
Yes.
Okay.
So they actually had to end the story really quick.
I think they wanted to do 55 episodes, but they got 43.
They got
out?
36, I think, because 36 or 38.
It's like I could have sworn
It's
it
in
was
the 30s.
whatever. It's high. It's not.
Because I think it's the same count as Gundam
It's
X.
not the original count that he wanted.
Yeah.
No. Well, they
Um,
finished out they managed to do a whole comprehensive series in that time, though. They managed to finish it.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, it was rushed at the end. So what they did, because there was fan outcry afterwards, because people loved on how it
Okay,
changed
so-
the genre. They actually made 3 compilation movies of.
So was this
The
the
show.
first real mobile suit, real mech
Kind of, sort of.
anime, or
It's credited as like the beginning of it, but there's been shows before it, just not as popular.
okay?
For
Because I know Astro Boy is like it was kind of
Boy
like
is not really-
Android, but like that was one of the original anime, as people would reference for America.
I mean, for like our things, you would say that.
even then, you can say that there was like moving pictures that could be considered anime because they were made in Japan.
Okay.
But that's like.
But yeah,
that's
after that,
splitting hairs.
Gundam, besides the 3 compilation movies, kind of went on hiatus for.
And the 3
6
compilation
6
movies
years?
came out in 80s,
I
would
think
assume?
80, 81,
Yeah,
something like that.
around there.
Okay.
So the other main issue was they couldn't get sponsors. So they had a toy company, and that's why
Not sponsored.
like the original Gundam merchandise wasn't model kits. It was actual like toys.
Yeah.
All right, so I know that there's a huge thing about the toys now. It's called Gunpla now, effectively. But how did that all start?
So after they basically couldn't sell the toys because they were expensive for the time.
All right, and this was after Gundam Mobile Suit, or sorry,
It was
Mobile Suit
during
Gundam?
it.
Yeah.
Okay, so this was as it was airing. They were trying to come up with the toy line.
So
and
they had one.
started off as the models, or
No, they started off as the toys.
Start off
Okay.
as
They were
a
like
toy, yeah.
a metal toy. I think it was Poppy. I don't remember the company behind it.
Like
but
you remember.
But they started off as full things and
Yeah.
not the models, because the
Yeah.
models themselves is what Gunpla is.
They actually had to
Yes.
change the designs of Gundam to be more toyetic. Originally, Gundam itself was supposed to be all white, no color. So they actually forced it to be the
Racism.
the red, white, yellow, and
blue. Yeah.
which is its standard colors from that point.
Yeah,
forward.
that kind of. So there's also at that point becomes kind of a thing where like there is kind of like the standard main character Gundam, and then there could be like side Gundams too.
All right, and I know that there's a difference between Gundam and Mobile Suit. What's the difference between those?
They're
So-
technically not. Gundam is a mobile suit.
Gundam is a mobile suit, yes, but
Gundam
Yes,
is a specific
But
type.
not all mobile suits are Gundams.
No.
Just like how not all squares are rectangles. Sorry, not all rectangles are squares.
So it was in the original Gundam. It was part of the G project.
Project V.
Project V. G
Project
project I
V.
think was Seed.
Yes,
So there was actually 3 mobile suits in that line.
but
it was-
the 2 mobile suits that are extra aren't Gundams.
Yes. There's Gundam, Gun Tank, and Gun
Gun
Cannon.
And this was all during Mobile Suit Gundam.
Yes.
Yes.
All right, so there's the Gundam, which is a mobile suit, obviously,
Yes.
but upgraded or a specific line of it.
Yes.
It's an experimental
gun-
type,
Tank.
Was basically a tank with arms
and kind of like a tank with arms and a bit
and
like
2 cannons on its shoulder.
yeah.
And then
Gun
gun.
Cannon is a mobile suit that just has 2 cannons on its shoulders.
Okay, and this kind of stuck with that throughout the rest of the series, or they
It
ended
was-
up changing it?
So there's multiple generations of Gun Tank and Gun Cannon later, kind of like how Gundam has different ones later in the line.
Yes.
Okay.
But it's not as prominent as the Gundams. Gundams mostly are prototype mobile suits.
Or some
Okay.
sort of specialized mobile suit, or general purpose combat mobile suit.
Okay. And I know that we talked about where we could start on Gundam. Where do you think people would recognize Gundam from if they might not realize it? Like a couple individual specifics. Like, I know that you can get a fig pin from certain stores of like a Zaku 2. I know he's not a Gundam, he's a mobile suit, right?
Yes.
I mean, they have Gunpla at Targets now in America.
Okay.
You'll see them around.
So what are some of the most popular? What are some of the most common?
I mean, there's
Uh,
the original.
in
Gundam.
America, it's Wing, because Wing is what started it. Here.
Really?
Wing
Alright,
is
so you
the
would say
most
the
popular.
Gundam Wing series or the Gundam Wing itself? Because that's a Gundam from Gundam Wing,
The
right?
Wing Gundam,
The
yes.
Wing. Okay, so there's the Wing Gundam, then there's the Wing Gundam Zero.
And then there's the movie.
From Endless Waltz.
No. There was one in the TV show.
Okay.
And then
Yes.
the Endless Waltz ones were redesigns of the suits from the show.
Okay.
They're technically the same, they just have different designs.
Yes.
Which, in America, is probably the most iconic, is the Wing Zero from the movie Endless Waltz.
It's the one with the angel wings. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, if someone, like, showed Gundam off to, like, most, like, American, like, anime fans, or even, like, cartoon fans, if you showed that one, they'd be like, oh, that's a Gundam.
The one with the wings?
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's kind of like the typical like Gundam look, like V fin, or the technical term is blade antenna. That's like the
V-shaped fin that's on its forehead.
sometimes
Okay.
it could even be horns or whatever.
Or mustache in one case.
Yeah, mustache. Typically, like usually the main one tends to be like a white and blue color combo
With like red feet.
with
normally.
like red and yellow highlights.
There are
the-
exceptions.
There are exceptions, yeah. That's usually like the main character, and
The most iconic, arguably, isn't even Gundam itself. It's the Zaku.
Yeah, like I said, I know that I can see his Zaku Fink Pin.
The Zaku is, I
stores.
believe, the most popular mobile suit in all of the franchise.
Okay, so mobile suits versus Gundams. We kind of touched upon it.
Yeah.
Explain.
So
explain.
there's basically like two categories for the robot weapons. You have the mobile suit and the mobile armors.
Yes.
The mobile suits are more humanoid based, where the mobile armors fall into like anything not human shaped.
Yeah.
Mostly. There's some
Yeah.
exceptions, but that's normally what it is.
And then some mobile suits can become mobile armors, and some mobile armors can become mobile suits. And then some mobile suits transform into like jets, and that's particularly called Wave Rider form, but that's a Universal Century thing, but that's splitting hairs again.
Okay.
But yeah, like even like from timeline point, for the franchise after the movies, there was a long like hiatus from Gundam, and then there was another franchise that came out called Macross in '82, I believe. Macross came out, and because of its animation quality, when Sunrise decided to make another Gundam series, they had to step it up way higher, and that's when we got Zeta Gundam, the second in the original timeline.
And he's part of the 79 timeline, but
Universal
Later,
Century,
yes.
yes.
yeah.
It takes place a few years.
0085, I
Yeah,
think.
it takes place several years after.
All right, so you said that it coincides with roughly the time that it gets released.
Yes.
So 85, that was released in 85, I would assume.
I think,
About
yeah.
that.
Okay.
I'm
It's
not-
either 85 or 84, I don't remember.
Okay. So,
But it's a direct sequel.
do you know where he got his inspiration? Like, did he just watch Gigantor when he was younger or something? Because that's a... you know,
85.
It was 85?
Yeah,
Okay.
sorry, Google.
That's fine.
Google.
I think they wanted to just tell a war story, but they had to work it into
Toys.
the robot franchise.
Yeah.
All right, so do you know how long he was trying to fish for this as a series?
They did robot shows before Sunrise.
Yeah.
They made like
Sunrise?
2 or 3. Yeah, he
Well, he
did
actually
direct.
had a couple series before that.
He
yeah,
directed
that
like
were-
3, I think, robot shows
He
before
did.
Gundam.
And those were super robots, not real
Super
robots?
robots,
Yes.
but they were way darker than most super robots.
Oh yeah.
Like, there was one I've got-
Gideon.
no,
Gideon?
no, Ideon came out after Gundam.
Did it really?
Yes, it did.
Because
But-
Ideon is the one that's supposed to merge the timelines because
Yeah,
it's basically like.
but like
God.
there's shows before where like one of the ones he made, almost all the main cast, which it was piloted by there was a robot piloted by 3 people. In the last episode, 2 out of the 3 pilots die. So 2 out of the main cast die.
Oh yeah, in Gundam you see old people getting shot in like the midway through the series because what happens is they take refugees from the colony, and the old people are like, okay, we're kind of done being in this essentially flying battleship, and so like drop us off on Earth, and then Char just kind of shoots some of them to be a dick. So you see old people getting shot at one point.
Gundam does not shy away from death.
No.
At all.
Again, come for the robots, stay for the war crimes.
Makes sense.
In fact, there's a whole plot point where there's multiple plot points where they'll gas whole colonies just to drop them on Earth.
Just drop them on Earth.
Okay, so colonies are like the size of like
A city.
Yeah, like cities. Like they're basically
And they're all in space.
yes. And there's about, I want to say 30 of them at the time, not considering the 2 that they dropped when they start. I don't remember. Whatever.
Starting as in the
Gundam.
original.
Gundam
Mobile Suit
has
Gundam.
a hard-on for
Drop it.
destroying Australia.
Yeah. If you're in Australia,
Fuck 'em, mate.
yeah. And the first colony drop, it just takes out pretty much all of Australia.
Almost
Space Australia.
Almost any time where there's a disaster like that, like wipes out a country or something in Gundam, it's always Australia.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Antarctica is also pretty much just like a land column, like a land mass at one point. Like all the, there's multiple times where there's in Universal Century. There's like 3 times where the Antarctica base just gets demolished.
and it's Tomine, right?
Tomino.
Tomino. Okay. So what is his issue with Australia?
I don't know.
I don't know. I think it's just because it's big and empty, and he could kind of justify it.
Yeah.
Australia,
probably.
not Antarctica.
Yeah.
Australia
Although,
is
I
not
think
that
they
big and
do
that
fire giant space
Australia's
laser.
huge.
Yeah, but compared to how empty it is, it's nowhere near Antarctica.
I mean, yes, but you have to have some human casualties.
Sure, fine.
In fact, one of the major series events takes place in Sydney when they kill Garmazabi.
So is he still alive?
Who?
Oh,
Tomino?
yeah, he's still
Yeah, I missed
He's like
actually seeing him
97
a
or
couple
something
years
like
ago
that.
at a convention, and I'm sad.
Christ. And he is still the one figureheading the
No,
whole...
no.
What was his last project?
Reconquista in G.
Yeah, which is technically
As a Gundam thing? That's
Yes,
a Gundam
it's
thing?
Gundam Reconquista in G.
Jesus Christ. Okay.
So that technically takes place after the Universal Century is over.
He's 80,
All right, so if he's 80, that means he was born in 42, so he
41.
saw... Sure. That means
3
that...
years.
So that means that he saw a little bit of World War II, and by that I mean he was a child.
Yeah.
Didn't see anything, really.
Yeah.
Although he would have been around for Korea, Vietnam, he probably would have heard about it from that, which I guess could draw the inspiration, plus the Cold War for
Also,
his
just post-war
crimes.
Japan in general.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
So,
don't forget, we were kind of like military dictatorshipping them for a little bit.
yeah, we did kind of go, hey, here's a nuke, and we own you.
And here's another nuke.
We unleashed the sun twice.
Yeah, yeah.
That's why That's why we have Godzilla and tentacle porn.
Yes.
I blame furries on Disney though.
Sure, we're getting a little sidetracked there.
I mean, what else is new?
Fair enough.
Sorry, I'm a little drunk here.
Same.
Yeah, at least you're staying on fucking point. I'm being a goober.
I am trying to. So, where were we? We were talking
you're
about
lucky I'm not
Tomine.
using my.
So we basically
Tomine?
we got
Tomino.
Tomino.
So we basically got to the second show.
Obviously, I am confusing
But-
names like Amano and then
Yeah.
Tomino and then Tomine.
We are
So we
not
got
going to do
the
well
second
in Japan.
series. in-
No. Our demographic in Japan will be horrible because I can't pronounce things.
So we got to the second show, which was Zeta.
Yes, we did get to the second
Zeta basically introduced the ability of a Gundam
to turn
transform
into
into its own jet.
Okay, and when did this come out? 'Cause-
85.
and we just said 85.
85.
Okay, so
There's too much alcohol. That's why.
well, I'm just trying to
I know.
make sure that we can keep on point. So 79, that ran for 30 some odd episodes,
Yes.
mid 30s, which is probably about a year's worth. So there was this 5-year hiatus, which ended up being what? Just him trying to get the next thing running?
They started doing some other stuff, like Space Runaway Ideon was made by Tomino, which came out after.
Okay.
Sunrise doesn't just make Gundam; they make other stuff as well.
Sure, and Gundam is more or less what brought them back into the forefront, you said, right?
Basically,
Hey. Yeah.
But you said that Gundam itself, the initial one, wasn't very well received by...
it also had very
It was received well by fans, but not well by critics / producers.
no, not even that. It was more of its time slots were horrible.
Okay, so it kind of got the Firefly treatment.
Yes,
Yeah.
Gotcha. Where the studio itself was more or less just sabotaging it.
it wasn't even the studio; it was just whatever TV spot they could get, basically,
Okay.
and it just didn't work out well for them.
So, it's
Did
kind
we ever have the original Mobile Suit Gundam air in America?
Part of it.
Yes, we never finished it because, like I said, 9/11.
Okay. And when did this air?
01, just
Oh,
about.
yeah, like 01-ish, that abouts, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it makes sense with
But
9/11.
yeah, but we got the we got Wing and
Endless
G-Gundam.
Waltz and G Gundam
Well, Endless Waltz is
is
a
its own movie thing tied
uni-
to Gundam
It's a sequel.
Wing.
It's a sequel, yes, but
Yeah.
it's a tie-in, and that has its own whatever.
But I'm just saying that. And then there's these little chibi ones that I remember on Toonami
SD
later.
Yeah,
Gundam
SD
Force.
Gundam.
Yeah.
That was-
SD Gundam. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about SD Gundam because I remember that from Toonami. Where does that play in? Does that not play in
I
at all?
don't know where at all.
Okay, so SD Gundam. So there's the SD Gundams because there's the. Again, this is all made to sell toys. There's the SD Gundam models, which are the little super. SD stands for super deformed, because they're like little tiny bodies with big
Little chibis. Yeah.
with
giant
bigger
heads.
heads. Yeah,
It's like
it's-
Pops, but not ugly.
Yeah. God, our Pops
Shots
is bloody
fired.
ugly. It's
I
not.
hate Pops.
Ugh. But
I don't even like
Super
Nintendroids, but Pops are fine.
so
I mean, opposite.
because
Pops are
they
terrible.
have to justify them existing, they'll do shows of them. Like they've had shows for Universal. Like they had a show where it was just basically Universal Century, but they were doing like a Dungeons and Dragons campaign, but with SD Gundams. I'm not even joking. For example, Camille Badan was a sorcerer, like a psychic sorcerer or some shit.
We can get to that later. We can do a follow-up part of Gundam because Gundam has an expansive lore. It started in '79.
We keep saying that.
It's true.
So-
it has an expansive lore. This is just the history of Gundam. And
Kinda,
again,
sort of.
well, we're loosely going from spot to spot.
All right.
We're
So I
trying
guess
to-
I'll get us back on track slightly, back to Zeta, which was the second one.
Yeah,
I thought
I'm
we were
just,
doing the
so-
SD stuff.
I'm just
so-
trying to go based off of things that I remember from Toonami and people might
So-
acknowledge from
Well,
America.
Zeta, we actually got part of it in English.
Did we?
Yes, we got the full series eventually, but
On
it,
Is this a Netflix Crunchyroll thing?
no, it was a long time ago. It was
So
back
it was
when
a DVD.
It could have even been VHS for all I know,
Sure, it was a direct to,
but it did have a full English dub.
Gotcha.
Huh.
Yes.
Interesting.
It was back when Bandai had their own American branch for animation.
Okay.
So they
going
actually dubbed all of Gundam originally
Wait, I didn't have
in-house.
this.
All right, and Bandai is basically just the guys that have been dubbing Gundam for.
So Bandai is the company that made the model kits.
Okay, Bandai made the model kits.
And then they
This
had...
dates all the way back to the original Mobile Suit Gundam, and just go through, or
Yes, Bandai still owns the rights today.
so they started off with the original toys that got.
No.
turned into-
They did the original model kits.
Okay.
There was a company before Bandai that made the toys, but then they just didn't see the profit in it, dropped them, and that's when they got the model kit license.
Okay, I loosely understand.
Toy politics are weird.
Yes.
Yeah.
We can do a whole
Especially in
thing.
Japan.
We can do
Yeah.
this whole thing on Gundam, Gunpla by itself, probably.
Because they didn't have that whole thing where you can't make shows to exclusively market toys like we did for a while here. That ended in the 80s, that, started the whole G.I. Joe Transformers boom. Which in and of itself also influenced Gundam too, but in a different, kind of different way.
Is the Transformers boom where we tie in with the Gundam Zeta with the transforming into jets thing?
So Zeta actually came out after Transformers started by
Which
1
is,
year.
yeah.
But the whole transforming into that was probably more of a reference to the series that came out before it, Macross, which is huge in Japan.
Okay, so then
That's the one where the jet fighters that look like actual, like,
Have you ever heard of
modern-day
Robotech
jets.
before?
no.
Okay. Well, that was the American.
You've seen the
Adaptation
kits
of it.
at comic book stores.
Probably.
It's the ones where, like it looks like an F-15 or an F-35, like an actual fighter jet, and then it becomes a robot. That's Macross.
So actually, to link that to Transformers, one of the original Transformer toys was a Macross toy that they just licensed.
Was
It
it
was
really?
Jetfire.
Huh.
The original Jetfire was a VF-1S Super Valkyrie.
And this is tying back into Gundam Zeta because Gundam Zeta
Was
had the Zeta
influenced by
Gundam,
that. It
which
was-
gotcha.
So
Yeah.
the reason why Zeta Gundam, like from an art standpoint, is such a high jump from the original is because Macross came out and it was super detailed in its animation.
From an art standpoint, you're talking about
So-
the studio that animated it.
So Sunrise did both
Yeah.
original Gundam and Zeta Gundam.
Yes,
But-
Sunrise has done basically everything Gundam,
It has done everything
Yes.
because they're the
except for a few fan base stuff. But sure,
well, yes, but like anything officially Gundam is only Sunrise.
Sunrise. Yeah.
gotcha.
But after '79, and like I said, I think it was '82, Macross came out, and it blew people's minds on how gorgeous its animation was for the robot genre.
And Macross is a super robot as
No.
opposed to
No,
a robot?
it's a real robot.
Okay.
They fight aliens, but it's real robot.
Yeah.
Okay.
So after that, Sunrise had to raise the bar to meet where Macross's standard was. So that's why the original Gundam looks a lot cheaper than Zeta Gundam does. It's almost night and day if you side by side them on how much more detail Zeta Gundam has versus the original Gundam.
And
All right.
even then,
And this is all still part of the central universe.
Yes, Universal
yes,
Century.
Universal Century.
Okay.
The main character also, this is the first time where they just say, yeah, no one is safe. The main character at the end of Zeta turns into a vegetable.
Fun.
Yes. Only temporarily. But you have to
He comes back?
you have to have a keen eye to notice that he's actually back in normal at the end of the third series in the
Double
franchise.
Zeta?
Double Zeta.
Does he come back in Double Zeta?
In the very end of Double Zeta, you actually see him and Fa Yuri walking away in like the last few episodes. Because in the beginning of that show, you actually see the main character from Zeta on a bed and just staring off into space because he can't communicate or anything.
So, even though it's considered real robot, there is a lot of space bullshit magic in it.
Yeah, I remember that from the times that I watched it on Toonami.
So they basically introduced like an evolved state of humanity.
It's
called
called
new types.
Yeah.
So this is still obviously future.
Yeah. So they
And-
basically got into like the old myth of where humanity only uses half their brain at one time. So their thing was kind of like when you went into space, it unlocked being able to use both at the same time.
Okay, so they were just more advanced humans because future.
Yes, but then
Kinda,
eventually
sorta,
it kind of went into like space wizards on how complex it got. later.
Yeah, especially when you get into Unicorn. I think
Unicorn is
A way later part of the franchise.
yeah.
where does that tie in?
I think that's 0095 or 99.
Yeah, something along those lines.
So this is a different timeline from the central.
Same
No,
timeline.
same timeline, just way later in it.
like
Okay.
20 plus
So-
years, yeah.
All right, so can we lay this out? For...
All right, so I'll do the Universal Century timeline, mostly canon. So you have 0079 and
That's the
MS
first one.
08th MS team takes place at the same time, and then in the last couple days of the first war, which was called the 1 Year War, you had
You gonna say Thunderbolt right now?
no.
Hold on.
War in the Pocket?
Yeah, War in the Pocket.
I thought that technically takes place in
It takes in
80.
0080 in the last few days of the 1 Year War.
Oh, that's right, because 1 Year War technically extends into 0080.
Yes. And then after that, you had Stardust Memories.
That takes place in 0082.
and this is all
The Universal Century.
canonically
Yes.
The
for Universe
same
Century,
Yes,
thing.
yes.
but not released in that time.
No.
No.
Okay.
Then you had Zeta Gundam, then Double Zeta, then the first movie, which was Char's Counterattack,
Okay.
which originally was almost like a send-off to the series because it kind of
Yeah.
wraps up the original story of the
Yeah,
first three
it
series.
wraps up where...
But then they decide we're going to make more. So then you had F91, which was the second movie. It was originally going to be a series, but they made it into a single movie.
Which, by the way, has one of the most brutal moments in Gundam, in my opinion.
Genocide, the scene. That's
No,
literally-
I'm talking about the baby at the beginning with the mother.
Oh, that too.
So at the very beginning, there's like, so now they're using gigantic, house-sized machine guns. So
Machine Gun Jubilees.
Yep.
So the casing is about the size of this table, length of this table, and it bonks a lady in the head and takes her out while she's running away with her baby. And the main female character takes the baby, does the, eye closed thing, and then just buggers off. But lady gets taken out with her baby in her hands and shit, and you're just
I don't know.
okay.
I think the Beyblades of Death later committing genocide is a little more
That's-
going into people's houses and just murdering entire families.
Yeah, the Beyblades of Death was pretty good too.
All right, so this is which one again? I'm lost.
F91. It was
F91,
it was the
which
second
is-
movie in the.
It
series.
takes place way, way later in Universal Century.
Oh,
Yes.
Okay. All right.
So we got the
So I
Double
forgot.
Zeta.
There's
This is
actually
where I
after
was.
Char's Counterattack. There's actually more stuff that's coming out recently. So
Yeah,
you have
it's
Gundam Unicorn,
fucking worse. Oh my
which takes
God.
place after Char's Counterattack. And then after that, you have the current movies that are coming out, which is
We
Hathaway's
should have
Flash.
made this a fucking drinking game. Every time you say
Then
time,
it's F91.
So this is all in the
Yes.
Central Universe.
Yes.
Universe.
And then after that, you have Victory.
Victory is another.
Victory is
20+
also
years.
take a drink for everyone who dies. You will
Okay.
die in like the first.
There's
two
a
episodes.
lady who gets just disintegrated at one point.
Yes.
So
In a bikini, by the way.
she's in. Okay, so
Nice.
they find out that the main character is a child. He's like 13 years old. He's the youngest pilot so far.
Nope, not anymore.
Mikasa?
Nope.
The who?
The girl from G-Witch.
Is she really?
She piloted a mobile suit at the age of 4.
Oh wow. Okay. Yeah, she has confirmed kills at 4. Okay.
Yes, 2 confirmed kills.
No, 4 confirmed kills. She took down 4 with the thing.
I think the mother also helped on the other 2, but I
funnels.
funnel bullshit.
Whatever.
Space
Stuff.
wizardry.
Stuff.
Anyway, so
But Victory is also when Tomino was in his
depressive stage.
the hardest part of his depression. So that's where he got his nickname Kill 'Em All Tomino, because he murdered most of the cast.
Yeah.
And this is
Victory.
a guy blows
Victory.
him.
Hold on.
Sorry.
So Victory, it came out in which year? But it takes place towards the end of which? Like,
Yes,
where
okay.
are we?
So it came out in 92, I think.
All right, so it came out in, let's say, 92-ish.
Yeah.
And it takes place almost as the most recent?
No. In the timeline. So you also have the bastard child that Sunrise tries to forget, called G-Savior, which technically is canon in the Universal Century. It was a Canadian-made live-action movie that was like direct-to-video.
Reconquista takes place after that.
Yes.
All right, so
But that
back on
becomes
track. Back on track. Back on track.
timeline?
Where are we? We have new movies coming out that are interjecting themselves into
So you're asking what is the farthest point in the timeline?
where we were up to finish a timeline for the central, and then we can talk a little bit about
I think the
some of the
ones are cooking
non-central.
a little bit.
Reconquista NG is the last part of the timeline so far.
Yes.
Reconquista G. Okay, that came out pretty recently, I'm assuming.
2014.
And they're
Gotcha.
making movies right now that actually have new stuff in it.
And this is all still part of the central universe.
Technically, it's after it.
It's a new.
So the Universal
timeline.
Century itself is like how we do like AD
Okay, you know how we do
and
BC, AD, yeah.
Gotcha.
UC
And-
is theirs for that time. So once
Believe-
UC was done, they have that new time, which is Reconquista NG.
Believe it or not, there's actually a third timeline that we use now called CE. Did you know that?
CE is what?
That's a whole thing that we're using in real life. That's a different story. I'm sorry.
Gotcha. So this is all part of the main Universal Century.
Yes, timeline.
Plus whatever the
Bullshit there
Reconquista
is
NG
after.
one.
Okay.
Yes.
So explain some of the others.
So you have the G Gundam one, which is where
And this was the first one for that timeline.
That is
This is
technically
the first spin-off
separate
period.
timeline. Yes.
Okay, this is the first spin-off period, which ended up being in which year?
It's called
94
the
came
Future
out.
Century.
It came out in '94. It's part of the Future Century timeline.
Yes.
Okay.
So you basically have giant robot tournaments to fight to find out
See
what
which
country controls the planet. for a
Yes, I
year.
got that part. What? Where is there more? Is that just its own thing? Is it just a one and done?
It was one and done.
It was one and done, but there is technically a manga that spins off that does expand upon it with more mobile suits.
That's
That's
right.
a
We're
whole
just
other
talking
thing.
about anime right now, not the manga
or the novels.
or
Yeah.
the novels.
We brought them up briefly.
Because if there's the novels, we have to for Universal Century alone. We have what?
I already said-
Advance of Zeta, Century,
Beltorchica's
Beltorchica's Children, which is an alternate timeline
And those are all
completely
part of Tomino.
of the Universal Century, but they
Don't
also
even forget
split
that there's
off into
even a
alternate
manga
timelines of
time.
it.
There's a separate manga timeline called the Origin Timeline too.
But those are all Tomino produced,
Universal
Tomino
Century, more or less.
accepted stuff.
Yes and no. They're all part of the Universal Century, but part of its extended timeline.
Okay,
Or
Because it
branching
splits
for-
off.
But again,
Okay.
it's all accepted as like canon. All of it is accepted.
It is
Okay.
part of its timeline, yes.
So let me put this
Gotcha.
in Dragon Ball Z terms because
Please
you
don't.
understand Dragon Ball Z.
Please don't.
I think there's only one
This is-
set of manga that's actually canon to the main timeline.
Bear in
and that
mind,
is
this
the
guy's
Crossbone
sober and he's still having a hard time trying to explain this shit.
But just
Okay,
going
so-
for Crossbone alone, there's multiple spin-offs
on.
in that you have to try to figure out.
Right. So hold on. So we have Central Universe.
Universal Century.
Yes.
Universal
Central
Century.
Universe.
Okay.
Then we have the G Gundam,
Yes.
Yes.
and then after that we have
Gundam Wing.
Gundam Wing,
Which is its own
different
thing.
timeline.
which is its own different thing, and
Then
that
Gundam
has,
X is its
hold-
own thing.
Hold on. Gundam Wing only has the 3, including the movie.
No.
Okay.
So Gundam Wing has the
show.
the manga, which takes place before.
We're not including the manga. We're
No,
just talking
no.
about the anime right now.
Well, I'm saying because it's canon to the story. So the manga, then goes the
Believe
anime.
it or not, there is some canon manga and some non-canon
Yes.
manga.
Then
for
is the anime.
all of these.
Then it's Endless Waltz, and then it's the novels Frozen Teardrops.
Okay.
And even then,
Next.
there's still some other novels.
Yeah.
Next is the
Gundam X.
Gundam X. Is this the final spin-off or
No, God no.
And these all started from
This is all
Tomino?
before 2000.
Yeah.
These
This
all
was just
started
before 2000.
These all started from Tomino though.
No.
No.
Tomino, the last one that he did for a while was Victory.
So fucking confused.
Victory came out in when?
92.
93.
93?
I just googled
Okay,
it.
so 93. So 93. Then 94 the
93,
year
I'm sorry.
after
Okay,
was
so
G Gundam.
Victory was in
Interestingly,
the
though,
Universal
Yes.
Century.
It was the last
Yes.
one for the Universal Century for
for the
about
moment. So
It gets stuck in the timeline.
Yeah.
10, 15 years almost.
Till
Sure.
they bring it, back
gets
again.
Yeah.
stuck in the timeline, and we're just going to put a pin in that.
We're not gonna be
Kind of.
Kinda.
Kind of.
And then we start doing the spin-offs with
Yes.
I'm
G
having too
Gundam,
much
So
fun
G
with
Gundam,
this.
then
Wing
Wing,
Gundam,
then X.
Gundam X.
So the problem is after X, we have a show called Turn A Gundam, which tried to take all of the timelines and merge them together, which is called the Correct Century.
Is that the CE you were referencing earlier?
No. CE. Wait, maybe no. CC would be correct century. CE is Cosmic Era. That's Gundam Seed,
Seed.
and that's actually the Gundam that starts in 2000.
Okay,
So Turn A is also a very weird part in the franchise because all the mobile suit designs were actually designed by an American.
Except
why
for
they
the
look all
reused
weird.
ones.
That's the one that has the mustache,
Mustache.
and it also has a crotch-mounted cockpit that flies off.
A cockpit.
Also, it was the first progressive show. The
By the
main
way,
character,
trigger warnings, war crimes.
all the war crimes, but the main character,
For Gundam Gundam A.
X,
all of them,
turn
Whatever.
A.
all of them.
So many.
The main character, for once, isn't Asian and isn't white.
It also is kind of gender fluid.
Yes, and this was '99.
In fact,
So it turns out, Tomino,
That was done by Tomino. Yes.
That was
Tomino,
Tomino,
and the like, more or less was ahead of its time in that.
There's actually a lot of non-white and not Japanese main characters.
oh yeah,
So-
Chang Wu Fei is Chinese, and Japanese people do not like Chinese people.
No.
um,
Chang Wu Fei is which one?
Gundam
He's
Wing.
from
He's
Gundam
one
Wing.
of the pretty boys,
Oh, Jesus
but he's
Christ.
according to most people the worst one.
He is the
Yes.
worst, the pretty boy?
Yes,
Which one was
Yeah.
he?
it's because he's sexist.
He's the one who uses the one with the dragon arm and has the Chinese glaive.
Ah, yes, the child.
They're all childs.
They're
The
all
child.
children. They're all under 18. Again, war crimes, children just killing
I think
people.
they're 15 in the.
He's the one that most looks like a child.
No, that's Katra.
Yeah, Katra.
Which one's Katra?
Katra's the blonde one from the Middle East.
And even then, he's white. He
He's
looks
white as
British
shit. Well, it's because he's from space. That's why.
Oh, Jesus. So many Gundam.
A lot
We
of
were
them.
back on.
So we got to
All
Turn
of
A.
the Gundam.
So from when they're coming out.
We didn't even get to the G
So-
Gundam's racism.
Yeah, that's besides the point.
We're not talking about that right now. We're not talking about that right now. What we are talking about.
I mean, there's a
Tequila.
Gundam named after your drink.
Tequila
Tequila.
Gundam.
Only in Japan, though.
Yes. Turns out that there was some
He has the sombrero.
racist-ish type Gundams. We'll say it like that. We'll be nice.
It's Japan.
Xenophobic type Gundams were fucking rampant.
I mean, to be fair, if you're an SJW, people of color can't be racist, so I mean, whatever.
that's getting tough.
Bleep blue. Okay, so after turn A, we're getting into just a whole load of unique stuff. Like Universal Century is gone for a while now.
I would be pissing myself in the background, and they're not going to understand why.
So after turn A, we have Gundam Seed. Gundam Seed as itself is almost like a complete retelling of the original Gundam, but for like a modern.
They do that a few times though, because even then, Age Gundam is also kind of retelling.
Yeah, but that's afterwards.
So Gundam Seed is, again, another timeline?
Yes, but it's one of the few that have its own direct sequel. Gundam Seed Destiny.
What? Didn't Wing Gundam have its own direct sequel?
Yes, but it wasn't a series. It was a movie.
Oh,
Gundam
yeah.
Seed and Gundam Seed Destiny. Well, yeah, it's an OVA. It's a 3-episode OVA that they condensed into a movie for Endless Waltz. Gundam Seed was a full 52 episodes, I think. And
Give or
Gundam
take.
Seed Destiny was the same. It's one of the few that actually has a full sequel.
I
That's
thought it was 25 and 25.
no, it was long.
Yeah, fuck.
Yeah, it's long.
I never
I
actually
rewatched
fully
Seed
watched
recently.
Seed.
That's the only reason why.
I couldn't fully watch Seed. I fucking can't. And that's weird because Destiny Gundam is one of my favorite Gundams.
Well, I mean, you can watch Seed. Destiny is just Destiny.
And Destiny Gundam is again one of my favorite Gundams too.
And that also had spin-off OVAs like Stargazer.
And Eclipse, which is also one of
Yes.
my favorite designs.
Well, Eclipse
too.
is a manga.
So just
No, it's getting a. No,
so
it's
just-
a
manga.
just how many anime are there if you had to try and give me a rough estimate?
I can
at
name you
least.
most of the main ones if you wanted.
Just a number.
All right, fine. I'll do the finger numbers. You start naming.
Okay, let's do this. 0079, Zeta, Double Zeta, Shar's Counterattack, F91, Victory, G, Wing, X, Turn A, C Destiny, 00, Age, Iron-Blooded Orphans, Witch from Mercury. Are we counting the Gunpla series or no?
Fuck it, may as well.
Okay, so you have
Lord.
Gundam Builder beginning G.
I thought we were just including the mainline series.
they're-
This is
and then-
animated.
they're still
This is
animated.
Oh,
this is
Jesus
all animated, and we're almost at 20.
Yeah.
Actually, I think we're at 22 now.
We have
not-
MS Igloo, Thunderbolt, because those were originally OVAs and then turned into movies.
Igloo has a movie?
No, Thunderbolt.
Oh.
The 2 Thunderbolt movies were originally 4-episode OVAs.
Yeah,
think.
whatever. 6, 4, whatever. Who cares?
Origin,
This is 20.
Unicorn, Hathaway's Flash.
Put away the second hand.
Sorry.
So far we're at 22.
We have the SDs, which there's a bunch of them I can't even remember off the top of my head.
SD,
Yeah,
especially
including the one that said it was basically D&D, but with Gundam SD.
There's like Sengoku ones
Yeah,
that are
there's
actually
this-
pretty good.
One of them has legitimate zombies.
So let's say easily 30.
Yeah,
Oh, at least.
yeah.
Would you say there's more than 40?
No.
Close. but
All right, so
almost.
somewhere between 30 and 40
give or take, yes. Just
Yeah.
and that's
canonical,
just animated.
canonical,
Just animated.
yes, canonical anime for Gundam,
Yeah.
Yes.
and they're all in different universes. How many different universes do we have? We have
Universal Century. You got G Gundams, Gundam
Future
Wing,
Century.
Gundam X, which is after war.
After Colony.
Just one
after
at a time.
war.
just one at a time.
Sorry.
Do we count Turn A as its own thing?
That's correct. Century. So, yes.
Turn A, we have the Cosmic Era, which is Seed.
C.
He's at 7.
We have the Calamity timeline, which is Iron-Blooded Orphans.
Iron-Blooded Orphans. The Battle Log.
8, 9.
The Breakers timeline.
Whatever
10.
the
Build
timeline for
the
Age is.
Builders timeline.
11.
The Age timeline.
The G Witch one, which is the brand new one
The
that's
brand
still
new one.
airing.
I just said the Battle Log. The Breakers, the Battle Log. No, the Battle Log is the Breakers. I'm sorry. The Builders. And then the beginning G is its own separate one too.
So beginning G is technically our universe.
Yeah. Oh, and Double O, which is Amino Domino.
Beginning G is
Auto Domino.
our universe, as in like where we are right now.
So that
Kinda,
beginning
sorta,
G
yes.
is literally just a kid who builds model kits, and then they scan it into a computer to play a video game.
Yep. Well, the video games like VR kind of like.
Well, the old one was beginning G was actually based after the
Gundam is whack, y'all.
there was an arcade machine that you sat in and played.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
what beginning
I've always
G
wanted
was.
to try that.
I played it once.
How is
It's
it?
fun.
And this is all from non-experts. Jesus Christ.
Just describing the scales of the model kits, I could be here for a while.
Yeah, we're not even getting into the toys.
Yeah, again, Gunpla it can be its own separate
And
thing
there's
by itself. The toys started off as non-model kits, then went on to model kits, just as a rehash. And the model kits are now basically dubbed Gunpla.
Which is short for Gundam Plastic Model.
And it is probably a multi-million-dollar a year thing.
Oh no,
Easy.
it's in the billions now. I think it hit a billion
Per
a couple
year?
years ago.
I would say total there's probably multi-billion, but I don't think it's multi-billion average per year.
Yeah.
Well, think about it
it's-
this way. It's a model kit line that started in the 80s, that's still going today, that has multiple different lines inside of the base plastic line that's sold globally.
Again, like I said,
Yeah,
I'm
you
not
get these
doubting the
things at
fact
Target now.
I'm not doubting the fact that it's sold over billions of dollars. I don't think that it's
I think
billions per year.
I think it's
though.
also owned by the second largest toy manufacturer in the world,
Bandai,
Bandai.
Yeah.
I think number one is Hasbro.
which makes sense.
Yeah.
I wouldn't know. I'm not an expert.
Non-experts.
But thanks to Gunpla, model kits basically almost became a standard for
You
like
locked that behind
robots.
us, you should be good, man. Oh, you're just dipping. Okay, sorry.
Because like that there's a lot of non-Gundam model kits now.
Oh yeah, no, there's even
They use the same grades as the Gundams.
But
Yeah.
we're not talking about these. We're talking about the history of Gundam. Let's go back to Tomino.
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 You got it right the first time.
Tomino. Let's go back to Tomino.
Mm-hmm.
He got started in anime through Gundam? Or
No, before.
No, before that.
What was his first thing?
Oh, I couldn't tell you off the top of my head. Google. I know he worked under other directors before, but then he also directed his own stuff before Gundam.
So Gundam still wasn't his first
He actually got a start
directorial
on
debut?
Astro Boy. He was doing storyboards for Astro Boy,
Yeah.
which was considered like the first anime. Air quotes.
So he's been doing a lot of things for a
Oh,
long
yeah.
time.
Oh yeah.
There's an entire manga that was made to just show you the creation of Gundam.
Jesus Christ. An entire
a good
anime
read.
based off of the creation of
No,
Yes.
manga.
There's a manga literally just showing on how they make Gundam. It's obviously like
Which is the name?
exaggerated.
What's the name? Just so we can have it and we can be like, hey, check this out if you really want to know more because non-experts.
It's been a long time since I read the manga. I think it starts with an S.
He sucks.
Fuck if I remember.
You suck, Tom.
All I know is they made Tomino hot, which is hysterical. Because I love Tomino to death, but he's not the prettiest looking man on the planet.
No, he is not.
But in the manga, he's great. Also buff as hell in the manga.
Gotcha.
That's actually kind of awesome.
Started in
And a
79.
huge perv in the manga.
Started in 79. Tomino's last was 92.
No, it was 14, I think, when
Well-
Reconquista G.
Well,
yeah,
before
14 Reconquista G.
before it started doing the whole divide thing again.
Oh, that
it
was
was
been Charles Counter.
was 99.
That was been Victory Gundam. I'm sorry.
I thought that it was G Gundam.
So Victory
Before
Gundam
that- oh,
did,
sorry.
but then he
He
directed
did Turn A.
Turn A.
yeah.
So
in
he-
99.
So he stopped in 92. Took a little break.
Yes.
G Gundam, Wing Gundam, a whole bunch of other nonsense comes out. 99 comes around. He does Gundam Turn A,
Yes.
and he runs again with this until
No, 99 to 2000. It was like a 1
99 to 2000.
Yep.
And then he comes back again.
in like 2012, 2014, something like that.
Okay. Who else has been major directors that have been sticking around for a while?
Really none. They've all been like a different one each show,
Single shots.
basically.
Has
There's
any,
been ones that have worked on multiple ones, but they're normally not main director every time.
Has there been any major guys like Akira Toriyama? Obviously not him, but just somebody who people might know.
Honestly, the closest thing you'd get to it is composers.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's one guy that's basically done like all the movie stuff in like the past like 10 years,
Who is it?
which is Hiroyuki Sawano. He does the themes for Gundam Unicorn, Hathaway's Flash. He also does Attack on Titan. He does basically anything he touches is great
Gotcha.
from a sound aspect.
Except for Attack on Titan.
From a soundtrack wise, it's great.
Gotcha. Except for Attack on Titan.
The music is great, and it's not the openings. It's like the actual in-show music.
Okay.
Yeah,
Except for Attack on
openings are
Titan.
usually their own separate thing done by separate bands.
Except Hiroyuki
for Attack on
Sawano
Titan.
does a lot of openings for
Does
the
he
shows
really?
that he does. Yes. Like the theme song for Hathaway's Flash, or the first one, Gundam Hathaway, the theme song was made by him, and he composes all the music.
Hathaway's Flash was really good. If you want to get a really good scale as to how the mobile suits are to people, Hathaway's Flash has an amazing moment of that where they're in the park.
Yeah, so you actually get to see on how tiny, like, well, to be fair, all the mobile suits in that point in the timeline are humongous.
Even then, no, that's actually when they started the miniaturization.
No, that was before it. That was when they were ginormous.
Was it really?
Yes. So when they became miniature was like F91, which takes place after that.
I could have sworn that's one of
The Cassie and the Penelope are some of the largest Gundams ever built.
No, I'm talking about like main.
No, they were bigger. The average mobile suit was bigger than 20 meters by that point in the timeline.
Really?
So let's bring it on back, right?
Bring it back now, y'all.
Yes. Where? I know we mentioned it once before, but where would be good starting points for people? Just like a baseline, average Joe.
If you don't want to get too deep into it, honestly, I would say Gundam X.
Gundam X.
Or IBO.
IBO is good. The only problem is IBO kind of falls apart later, but it's also very modern. Like for like a modern fan that's kind of like just getting into anime, Iron Blooded Orphans is a good one. But if you just want like something that's
I think
it's more like the classic, like if you want like the base of Gundam but just condensed, Gundam X.
Although to be fair, IBO was children getting in way over where they should have been.
I mean, so is Gundam X.
And these are all available on.
A lot of them are on Crunchyroll now. Gundam X is like the only one that you just can't find. You could buy it physically, but I don't know of any place that you could legally stream it.
Piracy's cool, kids.
It's not.
Fuck the law.
I mean, you can still buy it.
Please don't.
Most Gundam you could watch streamed legally. A lot of it is on Crunchyroll now.
Okay. Crunchyroll, Netflix has, I'm sure, their own special.
Netflix actually has
the
the
first
license
three Gundams, yeah.
for Hathaway, the latest.
They
movie.
have the if you want to see the compilation movies of the first three Gundam, which is the original Gundam, it's the whole series but done into 3 movies. They have the compilation movie. They have Char's Counterattack, which has the worst fucking character ever. Fuck you, Quest.
I've seen worse. Even in Gundam, I've seen worse.
Fuck Quest. Anyway.
Hey, don't give Char an option. He would.
Char is Space Hitler and also a pedophile. Let that be known.
And a space pimp, because he fucks everyone.
So, the only thing I remember about Char is he had a red Zaku 2. And
It was pink.
Cracker grenade.
And cracker grenades in Battle Assault 2 can be done in the air.
Gundam.
Yep.
Battle Assault.
So Char's not actually his name.
No.
What is it?
It's
Casfall.
Casfall?
It's Casfall Die Decum Zeon or some bullshit. Zeon.
I will never pronounce that.
Yeah, neither
Yes. So
will we.
Char was a name of a random guy that he killed.
Gotcha.
He stole the guy's name.
Yep.
So, loosely James Bond-esque, how there's the whole theory of, like, he just kind of keeps passing forward the 007 James Bond name.
No, Char just took that name because he wanted to get close to Zeon to murder all of the people that killed his father.
Allegedly killed his father.
Allegedly. Okay, and he is...
He's
We've
the main
spoken,
bad guy.
We've spoken a lot about some history of Gundam, and we've spoken a lot about Gundams themselves. So let's talk about, like, the main things. There's the Gundams, which are rebels?
No,
No.
they're Originally, they're part of the Earth Federation.
Okay, so they're the Earth Federation, and then the mobile suits, which Char would be a part of.
Okay,
The
so
Xeon, which are
the Zaku's, and all the other ones.
they're the rebels, or they're the
Technically,
kinda
they're
yes.
rebels, but then space Nazis.
kinda yes.
So there's basically two.
So do we-
originally, there's like two versions of
Two
Xeon.
main factions.
There's the original version of Xeon, which is fighting for freedom, and then there's the Xeon afterwards that was basically like, we're better than Earth. We're gonna just fight them completely.
We're going to try and take everybody off Earth so Earth can heal while we become the space Nazis and control space. Kinda.
and that's the
Xeon.
Okay.
There's also
Sig
Neo
Xeon.
Xeon after Xeon falls, which is the remnants of the original Xeon trying to rebuild Xeon, and that never ends. That just it's like a constant from that point on.
And then it becomes space pirates for a little bit. Not even joking.
And then it was whatever the
I
thing
think
in Victory was.
Space Rome. Yeah, oh yeah.
I feel like we're gonna need a part 2 to this.
Part 2.
Oh, we're going to need like
Part, like,
3
30.
fucking parts. This will become like every other month. We're just going to do a history of Gundam drunk again because it's just going to keep going.
I have a history is just like random facts.
Yeah, see, this is why I wanted to try and get it on the history of, and tried to start it off with the history.
The problem is it's too damn convoluted.
Oh my lord.
If I actually had to
almost
break
as
down
bad as
the
Kingdom
entire
Hearts.
storyline in the timelines of Universal Century, we'd be here for weeks.
And that's just one timeline.
But we're not trying to go down the individual aspects of it. We're just trying to cover the main overview.
But that's the problem.
That's the
There's
problem.
too much.
Yeah. Because it's very similar to say Power Rangers, where it's the same thing, but because there's different themes each version.
I can explain the
it
timeline
could
of
be a
Power
little
Rangers
bit
easier,
different.
even though it's more like not jointly connected.
Tell that to Lin fucking Cara. Lin Cara still hasn't figured out the timeline, and he's been doing that for 10 years now.
It's because the timeline itself is broken, but at least it makes sense because it's broken.
Yeah.
Gundam, it makes sense, but there's just too much of it.
All right, let's try and bring this back. Let's try and get this on a good closing point, so this way we can figure out if we want to continue this at a later time, and we can do a once a month recurring Gundam history part, whatever, or if we want to continue it on different things. Let's try and bring this back to an initial thing. So we have Universal Century.
Mm-hmm.
We have a bunch of different offshoot things. It's still obviously going. Tomine is still around.
Tomino.
Tomino is still around.
Yes.
Very much.
He's still loosely a part of this.
Well, they're making movies for the Reconquista in G right now. So, yes, he's still active with it.
And he did Reconquista
Yes.
and Reconquista G.
No, Reconquista in G is the name of it.
Yeah.
Reconquista
Or you could just, to make it easier for you, G-Racco.
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 Okay, so G-Racco is something that Tomino did.
Yes, it is
Yes.
the
He's-
sequel to the Universal Century.
He is still actively a part of it, helping out with the movie that is coming out currently.
Multiple movies.
Movies coming out currently.
Yep.
These are all available on Crunchyroll.
That I'm not sure
Movies,
of.
no. The TV series, maybe.
So these are all coming out. They're all still available for people to watch through whatever streaming service they need to in order to
Might
watch
be on
it.
YouTube. I think Gundam Info might have it.
YouTube, Crunchyroll, Netflix, Hulu, whatever streaming service you use in order to try and find your Gundam.
I think if you have a VPN for Asia, you can get pretty much everything Gundam on YouTube, but we're not sponsored by any VPN, so...
Well, the easiest way to do it is this way.
VPN, come get us.
Depending on how much money you have, you just go to Right Stuff. You type in Gundam, and you buy the whole collection.
Okay, so with saving you money, you can find it on different things, and he is still very much actively a part of it. He is still doing an overshoot of it, correct?
More or
Okay.
less.
Is there any others for the Gundam that are still currently being produced, like more G Gundams, more Gundam Wings?
There is a
more-
show that literally just aired 2 days ago from filming this.
Yeah, brand new timeline.
Yes. It's called Gundam the Witch from Mercury.
I think I need a drink for that. This is its own brand new timeline.
Yes, and it's also
First one with
the first one with a
lesbians.
female main character.
And lesbians.
Or at least one of them. The other one still seems confused.
Huh?
One of them was just like, I don't know. And then the other one's like,
Oh,
yeah, it's
no,
okay.
no, no. Technically, it is confirmed that Atra and Corellia are married.
Yes.
In the epilogue,
But they also aren't the protagonists.
They aren't the protagonists, but it is the first one. But there is lesbians.
Well, they also
So
married
in the-
to get out of Atra being a war criminal.
So in the epilogue, i.e., they are done with it already? Was it just a...
That's
like-
from Iron-Blooded Orphans. Yes.
Yes.
So you see them in like the last frame of animation.
So they're
as a
part of
family.
Iron-Blooded Orphans.
Well, no, that's
Stable.
the first lesbians. This one is the first female character is the current show that's airing right now.
Okay, and that
Is The Witch from Mercury.
is doing a weekly or whatever it is.
Yes, it's weekly.
Is it going to be weekly?
It's
Okay.
weekly. They're going to take a break and then have a second season next year.
Oh, so they're doing it like
Iron-Blooded Orphans, but with less of a time gap.
Well, what's it called? Did it too? Double O did it too.
Yeah, but Iron-Blooded Orphans was 8 months, I think, and then this is only going to be like 2 or 3.
I don't know. I never actually finished the first season. Then I went back and rewatched the whole thing in last 2 years ago ish. Just recently, I finished.
This is also the first new show since 2015.
Whenever
What do you mean
Iron-Blooded
the
Orphans.
first new
So you have
First
like the
new
spin-off
full
ones
show.
that are like they were called the Gunpla shows, where they're based around the model kits. But
Jesus Christ.
Iron-Blooded Orphans was the last Gundam series that was out, and then
And that was in 2015.
yes, I think it ended in 2016, 2017.
About that.
And
yeah.
so, The Witch from Mercury is the first brand new show.
Jesus Christ. So much Gundam.
Yes.
I mean, next time we could just teach you about Gunpla, and we'll be here for even longer.
Right, so,
Yeah.
this has been our first episode. I think this is a good place to call it for now. I'm Jackson.
We shouldn't even call this history, just rambling at this point.
That's kind of where we end up.
All right, that works.
We're stumbling. Literally, this is stumbling down history, my dude.
Stumbling Down History Road. It's the name of the podcast.
Anyway, I am D.
I'm Tom.
And this has been the history of Gundam, or kind of.
Yes.
Was supposed to be.
We, I would say, covered a good part of it. If you guys liked it, we'll do a part 2.
A good part. We've scratched the surface. Kinda.
If you guys
sorry,
liked it,
I'm
we'll do a
drunk.
part 2.
I
For
can start
Gundam
listing off frame
specifically.
numbers.
Oh,
Well-
Lord.
We can do a part 2 specifically for Gundam if you guys like this. If not, that's cool. We'll continue on with different stuff.
Sorry.
He's breaking things over there.
Bottle's fine. Don't worry.
And we'll talk to you next time.